This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Fan.
Under the Radar Hour is in the air. Welcome back. Three who follow the Minnesota Vikings very closely and do good work with their podcasts and websites and social media feeds, offering reaction to all the action will make up this final hour. And the first is quite familiar to 9 to noon devotees, a familiar name and voice with 9 to noon. It's Wobby. Mike Wobschall, who does a podcast with Bryant McKinney called Believe in Vikings at Wobby via X, and he joins us now. Wobbs, what's going on, and how's the podcast going with Big Mac?
The podcast is awesome. I'm not joining you now. I've never left you, Paul. You know that.
Amen.
Yeah, it's all good. You know, I mean, we know Bryant McKinney, because he was the stalwart left tackle for us when we went to the title game, and in an alternate universe won the Super Bowl. And, you know, when we were together with him, I never looked at him as like, I got to go to him for some elite takes and some opinions. But I have to say, working with him now for over a year at the Believe in Vikings podcast has been really fun. He brings simple but profound looks at it, because I think a lot of times when we're in it, you know, we can overanalyze and overthink. And he just sits back on 13 years in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl, and he just tells you what he thinks. And so I really enjoy that perspective from him, and I've been doing the Believe in Vikings podcast for a little over a year, and it's been really fun. You can find it wherever you find all your other favorite podcasts, and some of your colleagues do it. Matt Money Smith for the Chargers does the Chargers one. Bob Papa and Carl Banks do the Giants one, so it's really a lot of fun to be involved with them.
Well, if you're ever looking for, in fact, he may have joined you or done this at some point. If you're ever looking for a defensive side of the equation, not only with the NFL, but the Minnesota Vikings. I spent a good hour at Vikings training camp last week off the microphone talking to safety Anthony Harris.
Yeah.
Okay. And he had mentioned he had done Believe in something. I don't know if it was the Vikings.
It was us.
Was it you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
right.
It was.
Yeah. He's looking to get reps.
He's joining me every Thursday.
Oh, nice. How's he doing?
He's doing great, man. And he's another one, too, who's just like he's a little more like schematic X's and O's and he knows like personnel around the league. B-Mac is more like experiential, emotional, like simple. And then Anthony Harris dives in. I mean, he's talking about cover one, double X, free safety, robber, you know, buzz, cone, cover two. I mean, so you really get kind of a dichotomy there, but it's both sides of it are good. And yeah, Anthony Harris, man, I can see why Zim and Harris got along and why that was such a good fit, you know, because Zim likes to keep it simple, but at the end of the day, Zim's schemes were complex and complicated, lots of different coverages and pressures, and Anthony Harris, I'm sure, could have taught it. So yeah, he's a lot of fun to talk to.
With Believe in Vikings, I'm going to ask you an overarcher. It has a lot of low hanging fruit to it, but for the purpose of this Under the Radar hour, we would just like to hear you share. What do you think of the squad? The 2025 Minnesota Vikings, just paint with a broad brush, my brother. What do you think of the squad?
Well, as I mentioned, as I texted to you, because we talk and text more than people know, with J.J. McCarthy, I think aesthetically he is just so pleasing to the eye to watch. And I feel like no matter what I was going to be doing, if I was going to play a pickup hockey game on the pond in the backyard, if I was going to play week 1 on Monday Night Football, or if we were going to go play checkers, like I would want J.J. McCarthy on my team.
Right.
You know, and so he's got this intrinsic trait that you can't coach or get better at. You either have it or you don't. So I love that about him. And because it's a quarterback and coach league, I think the Vikings would, you know, you're doing puncher's chances to win the Super Bowl this year. They're not in that conversation because they have more than a puncher's chance. And so that, you know, there's an old saying that experience is required only for the unqualified. And so McCarthy's lack of experience doesn't concern me because I think he's qualified. So I like their chances. I think a couple of teams in the North you have to look at as maybe taking a step back because of some losses that they've had, especially the Lions. So I don't rule the Vikings out from winning the division, certainly not from being a wild card. And then on the other side with Flores, I mean, you remember getting ready for the Eagles and the late, great Jim Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jim Johnson as a defensive coordinator for the Eagles, like in the 2000s, it was really hard to get ready for his defenses because he does so many different things and he doesn't do any one thing a lot. And I see that with Flores. Like, really the only constant with Flores is chaos and confusion. And so I think that's a great way to support a young quarterback is, on the other side of the ball, there's going to be sacks, strip fumbles, interceptions, takeaways, defensive touchdowns. So I just think McCarthy is in such a great spot, and I'm so excited to see the most significant stage of his development be unfurled, and that's playing in regular season games when it counts. I'm really excited to see that.
So it starts in 20 days, 2-0, and it's at Chicago. What does Believe in Vikings think about when believing in the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson?
Man, I know you're having Thor on next, and Thor had really a take I agreed with, that from a philosophical standpoint, it's hard to see the Caleb Williams-Ben Johnson marriage being natural, because I think Caleb Williams is naturally a spontaneous playmaker, and I think Ben Johnson is like a professor.
That's a good
and
take.
He wants everything written out and done to a T. So if they can iron those wrinkles out, there's just too much talent on offense there for them not to score points. So, but the key is ironing that relationship out and Caleb being reined in, but Ben Johnson knowing how much leash to give him. So I'm very curious about the Bears. I think they're a huge question mark. I think Monday night, Vikings-Bears, it's going to be really important for whoever's going to play left tackle. There's going to be a lot of pressure on that left tackle because obviously Justin Jefferson's going to see a lot of attention with really no one to speak of capturing target share with Addison suspended. So if the pass pro holds up, O'Connell and Wes Phillips are just too good. They're going to score points, but the pass pro has to hold up. So to me, it's the left tackle, and if they can do a good job there in Christian Darrisaw's stead, I think it's an over game in Chicago.
Under the radar hour is in the air on 9 to noon on the vast and ever expanding iHeart Audio Network. We begin with a familiar voice from days gone by, Mike Wobshaw. We call him Wobby. At Wobby via X, and he hosts a podcast and has for a year and change called Believe in Vikings. Bryant McKinney is a co-host along with the likes of former safety Anthony Harris, and I'm sure the stable is vast and ever growing. So there clearly are multiple ways to skin a proverbial cat, whether by land or air or rush or cover. The Vikings feel they have assembled a roster capable of getting to the Super Bowl. And you have the favored five from the Bills through the Lions. And then after that, you get to the Niners at 19-1, Packers at 20. Vikings are 22-ish, which it's a little, it's on the outside looking in with those favored five. So that, free agency and the some of the players that they've signed play into that immensely. Do you have a couple of free agents you love that they signed this offseason, and if so, why?
Yeah. So the two interior defensive linemen, I guess I don't know if that's what you call them in Flores' scheme, but to me they're interior guys, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. Splashy free agents, names we know, you think like impact plays, fumbles, sacks, and all of that, and you think high-end, high-level there. And I hope that happens. I don't even think it's that. What I think those guys do is I think they bring up the floor of how bad it could get on defense. So to me, and again, the theme is supporting your young quarterback who's starting for the first time. So I know the offensive line got all of the hype and talk in free agency in the draft, and rightfully so. It was a big problem. It has been since when you and I were together there. Offensive line was a problem consistently. So I think those are impactful signings, but they were predictable. And I'm optimistic and bullish on them. But to me, I really think you brought up the floor of how bad it can get on the interior with those two veteran signings. So I loved those two signings. And then the other one that I liked was Isaiah Rodgers. And I know you and Nordo and Ben Gessling talked about him a little bit. I like that. I think there's versatility there, swagger. I think he's cocksure and confident, and I think that's going to really help a young group of and a questionable group of DBs. So I like some of the signings on defense that I think really sort of bring up the floor of how bad it could get, which only helps the young quarterback. That's sort of how I see it. I don't know, who were your favorite free agent signings? Who's popping to you at camp?
Well, I like Isaiah Rodgers right at the top,
Yeah.
and the big reason it's Javon Hargrave would be the answer. Then after that, we could like list them and go over the whys. But why I elevate Rodgers is because with the Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah regime, there have been lines of delineation that are established. And it makes it easy for casual or below the surface or on the surface football fans to figure out if the take was good or bad. So with Rodgers, I mean, they sign him the first Monday of free agency. And then people start getting interviewed about him. And, I think it was Flores who was like, we want him and think he will be the Zach Bond of the 2025 season. So when people start laying out things like that, that's compelling and intriguing to me because I'm not one to like spend 3 hours pounding on somebody because they said something and it didn't work out. But it just bears following when you know what the expectations from within are, and then we all get to watch the results. You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And so like one of the coolest things I've seen from the VEN since I left was when Jordan Addison was drafted. And if you remember the video, like the War Room video of KO, I don't know if you remember that, but he was basically super pumped that they took him. There was a thought maybe they'd trade out and not take Jordan Addison. And I think KO was like he knew that Addison would be a fit, and look what happened. He's a perfect fit for what they're doing. So to me, I look at that and I'm like, if KO really wants someone and pounds the table for someone, you should go and get him. And I think you're getting that with Flores right now. Like the Van Ginkel signing, like obviously I'm assuming that was a big Flores signing. Like I know this guy, he's going to be great for what we want to do. Look what happened. So when Flo wants a guy like Isaiah Rodgers, that's a Flores licensed signing. And given the equity that Flores has built up from a personnel and schematic standpoint in Minnesota, why would you not say, yes, sir, 3 bags full. Here is your guy, Isaiah Rodgers. So I think that's a great signing. And the other one we should talk about too is our guy Charge's probably answer for this would be Jordan Mason. Mm-hmm. No disrespect to Aaron Jones, but young quarterback, Addison suspended, beefed up the interior. Why not get a guy like Jordan Mason who can carry the rock in between the tackles and near the goal line? That was probably a pretty significant signing too.
My man, with Believe in Vikings and you and BMAC or you and whomever, what are the easiest routes for people to find it? How often, as the kids would say, does it drop? And what else do we need to know?
Episodes drop on Mondays and Thursdays usually, and on Mondays it's BMAC Monday with Bryant McKinney. Thursday's going to be the Anthony Harris spot.
Sweet.
Monday we react to what we saw, and then Thursday we're going to go X's and O's on anticipating what we are going to see. So Mondays and Thursdays, Believe in Vikings. You can find it wherever you find all your other favorite podcasts. It's also on YouTube. It's been a lot of fun. Been doing it for a little over a year. Going to do it all season here. I try and share some stuff on Twitter and TikTok and whatever, but people just like to scroll through that. But if you want to listen to it, it's wherever you can find all your favorite podcasts, and appreciate the chance to come on and talk about it.
I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you very much for the time, and have a wonderful day. Okay.
You bet. Yeah. See you soon. Bye.
See you. That's Wobby. Wobby. Yeah, that Wobby. Mike Wobshaw with a podcast called Believe in Vikings, as you just heard. Bryant McKinney, one of the better left tackles in the history of this organization, Super Bowl winner with the Ravens. He aids on Mondays. And Anthony Harris, who had like 9 interceptions one season. Anthony, undrafted out of Virginia, Low-key, one of my favorite Vikings the last 15 years. Smart, classy, good. He's just a terrific, terrific guy. It was great doing a Covenant catch-up with him at one of those joints against the Patriots, and do expect Anthony Harris in the very near future to be joining 9 to noon. We appreciate the contribution, and Under the Radar Hour continues around the corner with the Minnesota leader of the J.J. McCarthy fan club. We'll pay that off now.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Next. Continues with its Under the Radar Hour this Talker Tuesday. And joining us now is Thor Nystrom, who's been on 9 to noon before, at Thorku, Thorku, or at Thorku via the tweet machine. Also at MB Fantasy Life, and there's a website, fantasylife.com, and at Thorku joins us now. What's going on, my man? And how excited are you to watch your favorite player, J.J. McCarthy, in 20 days at Soldier Field?
I'm doing great, PA. Thanks for having me on it, man. I can't wait. We get the homecoming with McCarthy, who grew up in the shadow of Soldier Field, heading to Chicago for his first game. The first game J.J. McCarthy ever attended, first NFL game with his father, Jimmy, Soldier Field, Vikings, Bears. So we got a homecoming.
Okay, well, that's going to be great 20 days from now, because it may help you get over something that happened Saturday. And I thought of you a little bit at the time. It was later in the game. But false start, Logan Brown, back the team up 5 yards. Logan Brown, KU, Thor, loving Jayhawks, everything. You doing okay?
Yeah, it's interesting having offensive line depth for the first time. I was really excited about the Logan Brown signing. Now you see Huber is playing up as well, Logan Brown's former teammate at Wisconsin, and a couple other really interesting prospects there. Logan Brown he's facing an uphill climb to make the roster. I think we're looking at practice squad if not, but the takeaway for me is just having a good offensive line and having good offensive line depth again.
Hey, with J.J. McCarthy, for those who may not remember, into that draft a couple of years ago, and what do we have? The Ballyhoot 5, the 6, beginning with Caleb through J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix. Hey, what led you to? I mean, the quarterback class there, Jaden Daniels is the best so far, but we still got a lot to play. Drake May, I still don't know what he does well. Caleb is weird. Bo Nix came on at the end. McCarthy hasn't played, and so on and so on. But what led you to such adoration for J.J. McCarthy?
It was the way that he played down the stretch that 2023 season. I think people forget the NCAA was coming after the Michigan program. They suspended Jim Harbaugh at the beginning of the season, suspended him again in the middle of the season. You had the ongoing investigation with the Connor Stallions stuff. He got kicked out of off campus there, Connor Stallions. And with all this stuff going on and having an interim coach almost every single game, McCarthy down the stretch there, you play Ohio State, you play Penn State, you play Iowa, you play Alabama, what turned out to be Nick Saban's last game in the semifinals, the team that most people thought was the best team in the country. And then, of course, Washington, the national title game. McCarthy was basically perfect down the stretch there in this quasi unprecedented environment where the NCAA is going hard after your team in this season. Only one interception McCarthy threw after the Bowling Green game in mid-September of that year. Just flawless football. And PA, as you know, you have the physical tools there. He runs in the high 4.4s. He had the 6th fastest 3 cone at the 2024 NFL Combine, irregardless of position, and then was 1 mile per hour beneath the max velo record. Throw record there at the NFL Combine as well with 61 miles an hour. He has all the physical tools you need. He's a winner. He's smart. You know what people say about him in the building. They just fawn over him. And then what we have seen of him in the highest leverage situations against the best opponents.
Okay, Thor Nystrom. Then how do you think they will raise him early, or what do you think is the best route to raising him early at 22 years of age and his first regular season game? It's big, man. It's Monday Night Football. It's around his hometown, and it's only 20 days away. Do you think it's like Katie bar the doors and a bunch of deep shots to Jefferson, or how do you see it?
Yeah, I think we're going to get the run established initially. You know, as you know, you go from having one of the NFL's worst interior offensive lines these past couple years to now inarguably one of the best with the 3 acquisitions that you brought in. You obviously brought in Jordan Mason as well. You're going to establish the run, and included in that is using McCarthy's legs. We have never seen an element like this with a quarterback that O'Connell has had with the Vikings, having that dual threat ability. I think you're going to see that around the goal line. We've seen that down in Egan with the play action, the bootleg concepts that they use off their running concepts like that. So I think you're going to see that. You're definitely going to see some deep shots. McCarthy has that big arm. I think another thing you're going to see introduced back into the playbook is more of the peppering of the intermediate 10 to 19 yards down the field between the hashes, something that went away a little bit last year because Darnold, of course, was better throwing downfield than he was hitting those intermediate shots. That's one of the best things in McCarthy's game. So I think we'll see that a bit more as well. But I think in that first game, you're going to establish the run, and then you're going to let JJ take his shots.
All right, so off that, Thor, with the team and just the group overall, how far do you expect this group to get this year?
I think they'll be playing in the Super Bowl. I'm incredibly bullish on the Vikings this year. You have one of the NFL's best rosters, inarguably outside of the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. Who would you take as play callers above O'Connell on offense and Brian Flores on defense? Mm. And you know how good I think McCarthy is going to be. Mm. So I think this team is very dangerous. I think the market is sleeping on them. They dropped the Vikings win total at 8.5, the same win total they gave the Bears, which is just an absolute joke. I think the Vikings are dangerous, and I think they're going to make a deep playoff run.
We have our first Vikings to the Super Bowl 9 to noon proclamation. Let the record show it comes from Thor Nystrom at ThorKU, at MB Fantasy Life, and at FantasyLife.com. Let the record show that's where the proclamation began. By the way, what is FantasyLife.com?
It's Matthew Berry's company. I have the great pleasure of working for Matthew Berry, the godfather of fantasy football, and doing some fantasy stuff for them, doing the NFL draft stuff that I always do, and it's been a really good time.
And with your Twitter at ThorKU, I think I saw something this morning where I had to look at it twice where I'm like, so wait a second. So my man already is ranking the top 10 offensive and defensive linemen for the 2026 draft. Is that on the website?
That is on the website. Yeah, we've been going position by position, the too early 2026 NFL draft rankings. Offensive line, there's a guy that I got my eye on for the Vikings, PA, a guy that maybe you can monitor from afar this season. The center for the Iowa Hawkeyes, Logan Jones, is an incredible athlete. He has a lot of similarities to Tyler Linderbaum, but just a crazy athlete. He was dunking the ball in 9th grade in basketball. He was a high school basketball standout. They ended up shifting him from defensive line to offensive line to play center when Linderbaum was leaving school. He's turned into one of the best offensive linemen in the NCAA period. And for the Vikings, maybe looking for a center for the future down the road. Logan Jones, the guy on day 2, this coming April, that I think they might be sniffing around.
Somebody who was not drafted and could play a very prominent role in the final preseason game Friday is quarterback Max Brosmer. What do you see in Brosmer?
I really like Brosmer, and I think Brosmer might be the second best quarterback on the roster right now. We see a big league arm there. It's a guy who has always read the field just so fast. I remember talking to Eric Galko, the Shrine Game CEO, about a year ago, and they were all over Max Brosmer. That was one of their top targets for the Shrine game, and they ended up getting him there. But Brosmer, the thing with him, again, just reading the field so quickly, he makes the correct decision. He makes the correct decision on time, and he doesn't have a dead arm. He's got zip on that arm, PA. As you saw this past weekend, he was dropping some dimes out there, and we've seen that at practice, going back to the start there. But Brosmer is for real, and I think you have to keep Brosmer on the roster. You cannot subject him to waivers. I think he's going to get claimed. So I think that's a guy that's going to be QB3 coming out of camp. And Sam Howell, don't look in your rearview mirror because objects are closer than they appear.
That's a little harsh. Why, Thor? Why do you think Brosmer is better than Sam Howell?
Just the ability there. He reads the field quicker, goes through the progressions quicker. I think his arm is a little bit better as well. Howell, we've seen him in action, so certainly he is more experienced. I would understand, and I expect that they'll defer to the veteran initially with that. But yeah, I like Brosmer's tools better, and I like the way he reads the field better.
Okay, now you're an elite college football mind, Thor Nystrom, and I know we've had some practice squads of late for this running back. I'm just going to go ex-Valade until I get out to practice today and I learn to properly pronounce his first name. But the team just signed him. He started at Arizona State, finished at Wyoming. Ex-Valade, what do you remember and who is he?
Yeah, Wyoming, like you mentioned, and, went along to Arizona State. He is a solid athlete, and he has caught the ball in the past. We've seen him handle heavy workloads. One of the years at Wyoming in particular, he had to handle an enormous lion's share. This is a 95th percentile size-adjusted athlete, PA, per the RAS system. When he was coming out, 5'11", 204 pounds, but a 40-inch vertical, 97th percentile. Broad jump was over 10 feet, 86th percentile. Ran a 4.48 40, which was 90th percentile. This kid's a good athlete, and he can catch the ball as well. I think it made sense to kick the tires on this guy, especially in lieu of where your running back depth is right now. It's worth a look.
All right, and lastly, who wins the NFC North and why?
The Vikings win the NFC North. They have the best roster. They have the best play callers. I think you can put their depth up there with any of those teams as well. I think the Lions take a step back this year. You lost both of your coordinators. You lost some stuff on the offensive line. The roster is a little bit regressed, but I think that it's really going to hurt without those play callers. They play a really hard schedule too. With the Packers, their cornerback room is not good. I don't know, the path to them winning the division with your cornerback room that the Packers have. I don't like that either. And then the Bears, I think that's fool's gold again. I think the Bears, that's the easy one, is putting them in last place.
Anything else the audience needs to know other than at ThorKU via xfantasylife.com? I think we're about squared away, don't you?
I think we're good. I'm excited to watch Coy Parrish on the field this year. Coy Parrish, a future first-round pick. I'm excited to see him on August 28th when they open against Buffalo. You're going to see a lot of Coy Parrish playing both ways this year, and he's going to be doing his thing on special teams as well. If there is a Travis Hunter of college football this coming year, his name is Coy Parrish.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, my brother, I appreciate you. Have a good day, all right?
Appreciate you, Pierre.
Thor Nystrom at ThorKU, the middle portion of the Tuesday Under the Radar hour, 9 to noon, chatting with some people who put a lot of work into football and or the Vikings and, don't necessarily get the shine of some others. And the next and our final is part of Vikings territory. Somebody I've gotten to know over the years. I like him, and we'll see what he has to say around.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
The corner, don't leave.
Miss a play. I can't wait until tomorrow. 'Cause tomorrow might very well be too late. I can't wait.
Time for two more.
I can't wait until tomorrow.
Let's put a wrap on the show now and close the Under the Radar hour 9 to noon. Been fun doing this. And the final guest will be Dustin Baker at Dust Baker, D-U-S-T Baker via X. Also, you have at Vikes Now via YouTube. You can learn more about that. There's a website, VikingsTerritory.com. I always love when I get the opportunity to join Dustin and his podcast on the Vikings in the NFL. And so therefore, the least we can do is reciprocate as part of this Under the Radar hour, because Dustin and his friends do really good work covering the team. How are things at VikingsTerritory.com, Dustin? And thanks for the time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they're fantastic. August is always an uptick in excitement because you start to think about roster trim downs, which are only a week away, when we basically get rid of, 41% of the players, which is a big deal. So life is good. The excitement is palpable. I don't know that I've been this jacked with excitement about a Vikings season probably since the summer of 2018 when Kirk was still new and everything. So happy to be here, PA. What do you got for me?
Well, your staff is vast and ever expanding, isn't it? I mean, now I've seen Jeff Diamond as part of some of the writing. Mm-hmm. And I read this morning something by an individual named Adam New, who has some bold predictions at the website, VikingsTerritory.com. First, O'Connell wins his first playoff game as head coach of the Vikings. Please analyze that.
All right, yeah, that's Adam New. He's from England, believe it or not. So he has the Vikings coming to his neck of the woods in less than a month. Yes, he has O'Connell winning his first playoff game, which I happen to endorse as well. I don't know that they will make it too much further than that, because they'll run into some damn team like the Eagles or Lions. But this is crucial, my friend, because O'Connell's got to win one of these playoff games. Otherwise, we'll teeter dangerously close to a narrative that he, can't win in the playoffs. Now, I think he has the universal, 100% job approval among Vikings fans, and I hope he stays the coach for 2 decades. But I don't know what we would think if it becomes another one and done in the playoffs, because if you think of last January's one and done, that was absolutely rotten. I mean, you could tell from the beginning. As soon as they had the big telethon about the fire and all that the vibe was off, and then they lost embarrassingly. So I think the great hope is that McCarthy won't fire up those Darnold tendencies where he saved his worst for when it mattered the most. But yeah, let's roll with, I'll subscribe to this Adam New prediction that they get off the schneid and win a playoff game.
All right. Well, the next prediction he made at your website, VikingsTerritory.com, is that J.J. McCarthy makes the Pro Bowl. I'm not big Pro Bowl guy. I'm more all pro guy, simply because of the roots the voting, gets to, the anointing of an all pro. But, McCarthy making the Pro Bowl is another one you can read about at VikingsTerritory.com. Donovan Jackson making the all rookie team. What do you think of that one?
I will first say on McCarthy, I think it's a little too bold for my liking to pronounce or announce that he's going to be a Pro Bowler. He did have a good argument that the field might be thin, where they're looking for another one, like if Stafford is injured and whatnot. Donovan Jackson as making an all-rookie team, it depends on which one, if it's like PWFA. But as you know more than anybody, Paul, we are really overdue to hit on a guard. We've been begging for a competent one or two for about a decade. So I think the combination of having Donovan Jackson and Joe Huber, who I think is going to make the 53-man roster, hasn't allowed a pressure in the preseason. I think we're in a good spot at guard. I know you predicted an offensive lineman when we got down to brass tacks right before the draft. When Will Johnson kept falling, I sideways hoped that the Vikings would have been the one that accepted that trade from the Falcons, because they could have pocketed a first rounder and then drafted Will Johnson. But I was more than happy with Donovan Jackson, and yes, severely overdue to have a guard with staying power.
Dustin Baker, VikingsTerritory.com, at Vikes Now via YouTube. Give it a peek if you're so inclined. They work hard. Jordan Addison with more than 1,000 receiving yards in the 2025, and despite missing 3 games. That truly is a bold proclamation.
Yeah, that one I was editing last night, and I smirked because it was really bold. I can't get down with that one, and it kind of goes along with what Wobby and Thor said in the last couple segments. I agree with those two that this operation will feel more run-happy than we're accustomed to. At the end of the day, O'Connell is a former quarterback. He likes to rear back and throw it, but I think they've strategically operated this offseason where they're going to run the heck out of the football compared to what we're used to. And then you couple that factoid with the idea that Addison, no matter what, is going to miss 3 games. I don't think McCarthy is going to throw for 4,000 yards. I think we're more in a realistic version of 3,300, 3,200 if we're feeling greedy. But you can pencil Justin Jefferson in for his customary 1,500 yards, if you want to call it that. But Addison, to me, at 1,000 is a little too bold.
Dustin, who wins the division and why?
All right, I want to pick the Vikings, but I'm just not there yet. I fully accept the argument that the Lions coordinators have departed and therefore they're not going to be quite as good. But their roster is so stacked. It still is. I think the Vikings will finish about 10-7. Their schedule is murderous and brutal. Every time I start to get in my homer bag about, hey, they're going to do huge things, I go back and look at that schedule, and I'm like, man, this thing is not easy. I think the Lions finish somewhere in the neighborhood of 11-6. So you're looking at the Lions 11-6, Vikings and Packers flirting around 10-7. And I think it'd be a good season for the Bears to be at 8-9 or so with a positive outlook for the future. So a familiar territory for these Vikings. I predict a wild card placement in the postseason.
Where do you feel the Vikings are vulnerable now? Where are they weak? And actually, maybe something about which we're chatting in October, November, December, or whatever.
Okay, I'm glad you asked. I know the sexy topic right now is wide receiver, and rightfully so because of the Addison suspension and then Jalen Naylor's mysteriously jammed hand, trying to figure out what the prognosis is there. So I'll skip over that because I think the Vikings will address that in the post-cut-down market like you talked about in your first hour. Cornerback, to me, is still the spot, has caused me heartburn since free agency. I am not completely buying into the Jeff Okudah hype because the guy has been in the league since 2020. I don't know how we're magically going to make him good all of a sudden. I learned a lesson from, hyping up Irv Smith all those summers for a breakout season, and then that never happened. So I need to believe it where I see it when I see it from Okudah. So Byron Murphy, Pro Bowler, good. We're fine there. Isaiah Rodgers, I think he will be good. I don't know if he'll be great. And then after that is where I expect somebody like Dwight McLaughlin to emerge, or Zemiah Vaughn if he makes this roster. Mekhi Blackman, I don't even know if he's going to make the 53-man. He's been playing deep into these preseason games. So cornerback for me, I have hoped for 5 months that they would have done one more thing at cornerback. I've thought that, like Tariq Woolen out in Seattle, I thought he could be expendable because he's on the final year of his contract. And the Seahawks signed Shaq Griffin, who we know well. So I think if one spot becomes a roster weakness, it's going to be cornerback because we overplayed how good Jeff Okudah can be.
Dustin, yesterday you wrote the Vikings may have found a gem at wide receiver. Who is it and why?
That's Miles Price. I mean, you saw it with your own eyes. I listened to you on television. My friend called almost touchdown, the 81-yarder. This team is begging for an unsung wide receiver to step up. Absolutely begging. Lucky Jackson was unlucky on Saturday. He had a stinker in preseason standards. Jalen Naylor, I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. We hope so. Jordan Addison won't play. Rondale Moore is out. I mean, it's like an infirmary report when you go down the line. So there are so many UDFAs that you can get excited about. Silas Bolden is quick and a gadgety guy. Thayer Thomas always looks good in the summer. Deshaun Jones ran with the ones yesterday. But Miles Price, I think, because he has that returner acumen in his tool bag, coupled with the fact that Rondale Moore was supposed to handle those duties, I think Miles Price could latch on to the roster as the WR5 or WR6. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to get 700 receiving yards or something ample like that. But if a team needs a returner, and you spent most of your show mentioning how Isaiah Rodgers is out as a possible return option, I think Miles Price has a sneaky segue to a roster spot. And one of the dudes who writes over at our website, VikingsTerritory.com, Purple PTSD from Canada, Kyle Jodry, has talked for a few weeks, if not a month, about what he saw at training camp in Eagan that Miles Price was standing off the page. So that is the gym, and folks got to see it in living color with that kick return.
And Dustin, lastly, you wrote a fiction book called The Motor Route or The Motor Route, depending on how you want to use it. It's a suspense thriller. What's this all about, and where can people find it?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. This is my new thing. My wife and I, my family, we were going on vacation in 2021. We were at an airport, and to burn time, I picked up a book at one of those gift shops and started to thumb through it, and I had the almighty light bulb moment that I had been writing about the Vikings for about 2 years. I was like, you know what, I could do this. So I formulated a plan behind the scenes. I've always loved to read about, I'm going to take on fiction. I wrote The Motor Route. It only took about a month, believe it or not, in 2024. It's not easy to find a literary agent or to get attached to a publishing house. So I got down. I really wanted to get the book out there, and I familiarized myself with the Amazon independent publishing process. And I got the thing published. Eli Corbett from Vikings Twitter, you might have heard of him. He does a lot of cool graphics. He did the cover. There's some people that probably like the cover more than the book. But no, it is a one-night suspense thriller. My new plan, my second book is almost halfway done. I'm going to write 2 fiction books until I'm an old man. So by the time that I die, I will have about 80 books by people to remember me by. I think folks who like gritty, weird fiction will like The Motor Route. It's 300-something pages. You can buy the paperback on Amazon for $15. If you have Amazon Unlimited Kindle, it's free. So I asked your listeners to give me a whirl. Go see if I got some fiction talent. It's kind of a nice little trade-off. I write about the Vikings all day, every day. And then when my family goes to bed, I write fiction at about midnight.
That's awesome, man. If you need anything for Vikings Territory, shoot me a text. I appreciate your time. Wonderful work, and have a good day, all right?
Yeah, we'll see you later, man.
See you, bud. Dustin Baker at Dust Baker with VikingsTerritory.com, and the Under the Radar Hour is out of the air. I really enjoyed that. Hopefully everybody else did too.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you for listening. Here comes Big Daddy Khan to put that wrap on the show.
Big boy's back! Final hour went under the radar. It's a fax machine number. We couldn't get Ragnar, regular scheduled guest. He's in the lobby, so on standby, we elevated Wobby. After the parrot, you got a lot more. J.J. McCarthyism on display from Thor. The final words and thoughts from our main man, Dustin. He wrote The Motor Route, but with no signs of rustin'. Got all my tickets and my passes to the fair, and I'm shaking off the momentary feelings of despair. 6 days like a marathon, I'm rolling up my sleeves. Speaking of marathon, what up, Steves? But alas, this ain't the coal mines, and the beat will go on just like the Skull Line. And tomorrow, from Perham all the way to Peekskill, we'll cover everything we'll be seeing in Nashville.
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet, and we'll go out back, I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Our partner, Eli Lilly and Company, just announced Duets for Type 2 Diabetes, a campaign celebrating real patient stories of support because managing Type 2 diabetes doesn't have to be a solo act. Share your story at mounjaro.com/duets. Mounjaro tirzepatide is an injectable prescription medicine that is used along with diet and exercise to improve blood sugar, glucose, in adults with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Mounjaro is not for use in children. Don't take Mounjaro if you're allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Stop and call your doctor right away if you have an allergic reaction, a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or vision changes. Serious side effects may include inflamed pancreas and gallbladder problems. Taking Mounjaro with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Tell your doctor if you're nursing, pregnant, plan to be, or taking birth control pills, and before scheduled procedures with anesthesia. Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting, which can cause dehydration and may cause kidney problems. Once weekly Mounjaro is available by prescription only in 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5 and 15 milligram per 0.5 milliliter injection. Call 1-800-LILY-RX, 800-545-5979, or visit mountjaro.lilly.com for the Mounjaro indication and safety summary with warnings. Talk to your doctor for more information about Mounjaro. Mounjaro and its delivery device base are registered trademarks, owned or licensed by Eli Lilly and Company, its subsidiaries or affiliates.